GM friends, and thanks for joining DeFi-Logic's TA Tuesday every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Mountain Time. As a member of DeFi-Logic server, you can join our call every week, request chart reviews, and discuss the charts in real time. Check out the link in the video description below. In today's community call, we will review charts for Aptos, ThorChain, MEVFREE, blockchain bets, Bitcoin ETH, Total 3, and for legacy markets, S&P 500, both SPX and SPY, NASDAQ, Dow Jones Industrial, Dollar Index, U.S. 10-year bonds, and the Volatility Index. And with that, over to you, Eddie.
All right, let's go. So I wanted to do a quick recap just on some of last plays first. So on stream, we called this Sol short, and it played out perfectly, hitting take profit. It's doing exactly what we wanted to. I'm already out of this because I just had a TP set and it hit, but it looks like it's going to go to these eventual targets too. So definitely lots of value in checking out these streams because that was a free 2.8R. I think it still has some more downside. Any bounces into this 4-5 region, I think is a short with your stop probably wanting to put it like at 23.939. Same with Atom. We did Atom, and it also played out perfectly, and my take profit already hit, so that was another 2R bagged. And same thing, it looks like it's just going to keep going down. So market's been kind of interesting lately just because Bitcoin's been relatively strong and alts have been extremely weak. So it's usually, I usually use Bitcoin as confluence, but it's not really doing anything. But I have just been shorting alts because they're super weak. So I think we also laid out this Bitcoin trade last time. I'm pretty sure this is the chart that we did. If not, I apologize, but I'm almost 100% sure that this was it, and it did exactly what we were wanting it to, came in some of the highs, and it's going lower. I do think that this area right here can be some support, but it's already bounced. It's already wicked into it a couple times, so it's definitely much weaker now. I wouldn't be, looking to be a buyer here anymore. Any bounces, if you're not already short, I think are for shorting. If you can get any bounce up into this area, I think from 277 to 8, I think you want to hit that for sure. And target remains the same. These lows, I'm looking at least at the minimum range lows, but these ones is what I'm thinking is going to happen. It's kind of inevitable. However, dollar has been breaking down, which is making it a little bit like I use it as confluence. It's not really a good indicator for me right now, so it is a little bit tricky, but sometimes you kind of just have to play the chart for what you see, and this is going to go down. So if you don't get a bounce, as soon as you lose this area, I think you can look for a breakdown short to the lows as well, though. In any theory, like I was saying, altcoins have just been much weaker. Didn't even give the bounce I wanted to short it, so I wasn't in it at all. But the continuation play looks like it's going to be playing out right now. So as soon as we start breaking down from this low, you can get short on it, probably with your stop being today's high. It depends on what price action gives us for the rest of the day, and we still have the same targets. So market's been going down like we've been calling for. I think GForce and I have been pretty spot on with being bearish, which is pretty cool. So how about some new plays though, right? So let's look at Aptos. They got a pretty significant unlock coming up October 11th. So it may have already happened by the time you're watching this. All the more reason to watch it live. It's a 2% unlock too, so it's pretty hefty. You are at these lows here. Hold on. So I got this pretty big weekly level here, which we're already under. So I think a lot of people are familiar with that 3-tap pattern, and it's failed. If you're not familiar with it, just look it up, 3-tap pattern. It's like everywhere, and it's closed below it. So I don't know if this is going to have any power to bounce. Ideally, I like shorting rips. If it can come up into here, I'm shorting it with stops above these highs, but that might not happen with the unlock. Actually, it might. It looks like it's ready for a low time frame bounce. So I'll be looking into this area to get short. It's got a long way to go. I mean, you have a ton of inefficiency here, so it's hard to give an exact target. So I would just kind of take it whenever you're happy, just close. But it would look something like this, probably like around here. Little 2.7R trade. If we get it, not bad. I'll probably look to, I'm just going to put an alert for now, but that's what I view on Aptos. I think with the unlocks, we missed that last one with Ape, just because I thought Ape looked bullish, but this looks pretty bearish no matter how you spin it. So I just think it's going to trade lower. And then you'll probably get your accumulation zone for it, right? So I think this launched in the bear market, it did. So it's never had an accumulation. It just was launched. People pumped it, slowly been selling it, and they'll probably start to accumulate in some sort of range like here. So I would like to short into it. And then once it's starting to kind of lose momentum, probably take profit and then just let it do its accumulation thing. RUNE. RUNE had a bunch of volatility this past month. I know that their Twitter was posting some stuff. I don't know exactly what it was, but I think that kind of led to this rally. So let's see what's going on. RUNE was one of my favorites last bear markets for the bull market, and it did pretty decent. Let's see if it's got anything for us now. It's actually relatively bullish, which is kind of crazy to see. It technically broke market structure though, right? Because you had your higher low, and then it had a lower high, but it had a higher low and a higher high again. So you just ignore that one. But it broke market structure right here and also made a new low. So technicals, even though it looks decent, technicals tell me when I want to short any bounces into this region right here with something like this, with your take profit one being this little support that it's forming somewhere in there. Maybe leave a little bit in case it breaks down, but you'd want to be fully out because this, you have to imagine that this respects still. It's held up pretty nicely, and it really hasn't tested it too much. It's kind of got these, tested it twice, right? So that 3 tap that I was talking about could happen again. So here's your 1, here's your 2, and then it could come in here and go again. So it's tough though. It's tough for me to be bullish on some alts when I've been pretty bearish on all of them. So I don't think I would personally look for longs on it just because it's hard for me to play that way personally. But you could look for some bullish price action to take place here again and go for an attack at the highs. Other than that though, because the market structure break on the daily, I prefer this setup right here. It's not the greatest R. You'd want to zoom in onto a lower time frame, but trying to keep it on daily since for our stream schedule. So that's kind of what I would look for. A short into this, take most of it out here, maybe leave a little bit in case we start filling this in down here. And then if you do break down pretty aggressively, you could just take a new one, right? So if it starts to kind of break down, and let's say this is like a new candle, just pretend that's the new white candle, starts breaking down pretty aggressively, you could just get in with your stop being above whatever wick it forms. That's really aggressive though. Yeah. Let's move on to MEVFREE just to check in on it. We haven't looked at it in a while, and it's kind of just doing what we expected it to do. We never got the bullish scenario. It just kind of died into this zone that I was waiting for. Holding it for now. Let's see if it starts to accumulate in this area. I wouldn't expect like a new run from it. We're just not in that type of market right now. So if it's something you like, you can just buy some and, hold on to it for the next cycle. You have to be careful though, there's nothing stopping it from trading all the way down to the launch, This is if you want to get bullish, now this is your new high that you need to reclaim right here. And then Chain Bets BCB, partners and analysts at DeFi-Logic conducted research and a comparative analysis with Rollbit. Reports are live in the server, so go check that out. And it looks like it's basically doing what we expected it to also. So we got a pretty nice buy into this little zone that I had marked out. So that's pretty positive to see. I'm not ruling out the other sweep of this low, though, to come fill this little other gap in some more. Take out this low like I previously planned and potentially get into this zone. If we do test this area and you like the project, you just need to buy a bunch and pray for a bounce. Because if it loses that, it's dead, right? But it's doing exactly what we wanted it to. It's looking okay. There's no real, let me get rid of that. There we go. No volume, but that's kind of the whole market. But yeah, same plan. So if you get another sweep and a daily close above it, I think you can buy and aim for higher. Just aim for your highs. It's interesting how it had kind of 2 pumps. So it'd be cool to see a third. You can get really excited about it still if it clears these highs. But other than that, it's just kind of chilling, doing its thing. We already went over Bitcoin. We already went Ethereum. We could look at total 3 really quick, just for fun. Sol 3 is not giving me much. Let's look at, actually, I'd rather look at ETH to BTC. This is more actionable. And this kind of tells the story that I've been talking about, right? Just this last week, all I've been doing is shorting altcoins, and you can see why they're just so weak. Even if you look at Sol BTC, I sold BTC more lately. I feel like Ethereum used to always kind of be like the indicator of altcoin strength, but I kind of feel like it is Sol now, personally. Could just be in my head, but same idea. Like it had this range here that I was paying attention to, and kind of did the same thing that Bitcoin did, right? Where it tagged the highs and was just going to go down. So I think there's a really good indicator of what alts have to do. They still have to fall further, at least into a range low. Market likes liquidity. There's some sitting down here. FBC basically gives you the same story, but Sol is just a little bit cleaner, in my opinion. We are approaching some pretty interesting spots, though, on Ethereum BTC. So you can't just be perma-bear for too much longer, I think, but for the time being, you can be. But that's really all I had, so I'll just pass it on back. Thanks, guys.
Cool beans. Thanks, Eddie. And on to GForce for legacy markets.
Okay, thanks. We're looking at the legacy markets, and we have a lot of activity going on with geopolitical issues with Israel and Hamas, the war going on there. So we're going to look at, basically, this is the S&P 500, the daily chart. Now, the interesting thing is that there's no answer on why the market's rallying the last 3 days. It rallied on Friday. You can see it right here. This is Friday. And then we also had, over the weekend, basically Hamas attacked Israel, and Israel has declared war on Hamas. So Monday, the market started down, but it opened down, and then it rallied, okay? And then today it's rallying and got actually to the standard deviation line here, the black line. So why would it be rallying with a war going on, especially with Israel and Hamas, which could blow up into a huge regional war, if not more than a regional war? So the only thing that really explains this is technical analysis. And that's why we have TA Tuesdays, because technical analysis overrules, and I hate, a lot of people say, no, it doesn't overrule, but it does overrule when you have quant funds and algorithm funds trading billions of dollars. So what we're looking at is the lows on these Bollinger Bands. So this was a low back in Tuesday, October 3rd. It hit the 2X line right there, and then it's traded sideways. It keeps trading sideways, and then Friday it bounced, okay? So on this Friday, we're looking at the first target, which is the standard deviation line right here. Well, sure enough, it hit that today, okay? That was my first target. And that right there is basically at 43.40. So, well, 46 to be exact. Okay, so 43.46 to be exact. And then we have this gap, all right? You'll see it in a purple rectangle that I have here. So we are going to fill in the gap. Legacy markets always fill in their gaps. So we started to fill in the gap today. It got above the bottom part of that gap, which was 43.75. Okay, now the top of that gap on the S&P 500 is 44.01. So we got halfway into filling that gap. Now, if we're going to fill this gap today, it doesn't look like it because of the pullback. Are we going to have it tomorrow? Possibly. By the end of the week, I think we could. It could pull back a little bit, but it's eventually going to fill in that gap all the way up to 44.01. So looking at the SPY, which is the ETF for the S&P 500, I'll bring that chart up as well. So we also have the gap there. Now, you'll see that we had a gap that I talked about several weeks ago down here that was all the way back to June 1st. We filled that in, and that was a low gap down to 422.92. So now we've rallied back up, like I mentioned on S&P 500. And so this gap here fills in at the bottom, which is 435.97, which we filled in today, but it's not, the whole gap isn't filled in until it gets to 44.30. So it hit the first target, which is a standard deviation, and now it's starting to climb back up. Again, is it going to happen today? I don't think so. This week, possible, very strong possible, because there's a lot of momentum going on. It could also do it next week. So technical analysis actually shows you why this thing is rallying. Even though we have geopolitical issues going on, major geopolitical issues with the war, the markets are doing the opposite. So nobody else has an explanation. There's a couple, there's an article that I popped in that people are explaining, well, why is the market rallying? Nobody can explain it. Well, with technical analysis, you can explain it because the markets are going to do what it's going to do, what they're programmed to do. And that's billions of dollars that are following computer programs that are saying it's a point to rally. It's a point to rally. So it's doing that in the S&P. It's also doing that in the NASDAQ. Let's look at NASDAQ real quick. And you'll see that NASDAQ already filled in their gap that they had back on September 20th. So NASDAQ has totally filled in that gap, and it's climbed higher. So that gap conveniently was right at the standard deviation line. Okay, so it accomplished both targets in one attempt. So it basically on Friday rallied up to that standard deviation line, and then it held it yesterday on Monday, and now it's bumped up significantly. The Dow Jones is a little bit of a lagger. It got brutalized the last 2 weeks, actually last 3 weeks, hit down here at the bottom, 2x line, and it's rallied up. Now it's coming close to the standard deviation line. It's just shy of it, but eventually it's going to hit that as well. And now on to the dollar index. So the dollar index, as we talked about, kept climbing. It's finally hit a peak and it's pulled back. It's pulled back the last 4 days and it pulled back right to the standard deviation line right here of 105.854. So it's hit that and it's kind of hovering around there. Will it go below that? I doubt it. I think it'll probably start to rally back up again. And if it does get to this latest high, then we have a double top. And that'll be right in this area. But if we have a double top, it'll be interesting in what it does at that point, because it'll probably pull back down. And if it closes below this, the standard deviation line here today, then it could drop all the way down at that point. So we'll look at the dollar index because we know that crypto has a inverse correlation with that. On to the U.S. 10-year Treasury. Now, you can see on this, we did have a double top right here. Okay, so basically on October 3rd and then again on October 6th. It isn't much. I'll adjust the chart a little bit here and see if we can get a better picture of that. So it is what I call still an M. So once it broke this midpoint right here, which is at 4%, then it's gone down. I don't know how much further it's going to go down because we've had the worst bond offering in a marketplace in the history of the United States. The global markets are kind of getting a bad taste in their mouth with the U.S. bonds. So, because we have too many of them, we're glutting the market with bonds because we are 33 plus trillion in debt as a country. So the globe and global markets and other countries are looking at it and going, I think you guys need to get your house in order first, get a budget, quit kicking the can down the road on basically government shutdowns, which we have again this week, probably spill over into next week. So the marketplace is thinking, well, the United States is not as financially as tight as they used to be, and we're not going to really buy their bonds. That's an issue because if they stop buying our bonds, it means to get them to buy the bonds, we have to give them a higher yield. So that just is a spiral of the yields starting to climb and the bonds going down. And it's just a spiral that's hard to stop. So if we don't stop it now, then higher yields and higher interest rates and inflation is going to be higher in the near future. All right, Pepe, that's all I have with the legacy markets. On to you.
Thanks, John. And that's it for this week. Remember, as a member of DeFi-Logic, you can post requests in the Daily Dose forum, and we'll review your coins, assets, and tradable proxies in the next call. Also, DeFi-Logic members interested in alpha testing our ETH spot trading indicator and new XRP strategy developed by Cryptix, the service is free until we launch. Our Bitcoin strategy is almost ready for alpha testing, so be on the lookout for that in our server. DeFi-Logic is a freemium service for members that join prior to public launch. As an early member, you'll gain free lifetime access to the server and steep discounts on other products and services we develop in the future. Thanks for joining this week, and we'll see you next time on Tuesday at 12 p.m. Mountain Time. GM friends.
Join us next week in Discord for TA Tuesday at DeFiLogic.com.